Let me start with something most founders don't want to hear. Startups don't just die when money runs out. They die much earlier. They die when founders keep pushing a direction that reality has already rejected. And the dangerous part? It doesn't feel like failure. It feels like perseverance. Because in startup culture, perseverance is glorified. Just keep going. Don't give up. Winners never quit. Sounds great. But nobody tells you the other half of the truth. Sometimes the smartest founders quit the wrong path early because there's a thin line between conviction and denial. And if you can't tell the difference, you can waste years of your life building something the market never wanted. So the real skill is not just working hard, it's reading reality correctly. And for that, you need signals, not emotions, not hope, not ego, signals. Let's break down the 4 signals that actually matter. First, the flat line. You've done everything right. You improved the product, fixed onboarding, changed pricing, increased distribution, but the core metric, the one that should prove value, doesn't move. No matter what you do, this is not a growth problem. This is a signal that the market may not care enough. And this is where many founders make a mistake. They think, we just need one more feature. But here's the truth. If meaningful improvements don't move the needle, you are not dealing with execution failure. You are dealing with a weak thesis. And that's when a pivot becomes necessary. Second, the pull. This looks very different. The product is not perfect. It's buggy, incomplete, sometimes frustrating, but users keep coming back. They complain when it breaks. They ask for more. They find ways to use it. That's gold, because it means the problem is real, even if your product isn't. In this case, you don't pivot, you persevere. You fix execution because the underlying demand exists. Third, the unit economics gap. This one is tricky because it can look like success. You're growing, customers are coming in, revenue is increasing, but underneath, every customer is making your business weaker. Your costs are too high, your margins are negative, retention doesn't justify acquisition. And worse, it's not improving. This is dangerous because growth is masking a structural flaw. And if the economics cannot realistically improve, you don't need optimization. You need a structural pivot, maybe a new pricing model, maybe a new segment, maybe a new delivery model. But something fundamental has to change. Fourth, the founder burnout signal. This is not about being tired. Every founder is tired. This is deeper. The team no longer believes in the problem. Work feels like maintenance, not progress. There's no curiosity, no energy, no conviction. At this point, you have to be honest. Is this something worth resetting or something worth shutting down? Because a team without belief cannot build a great company. Now here's the biggest trap. Misreading noise as signal. One bad week is not failure. A few happy users are not product market fit. One big client is not a repeatable business. Founders love to cherry-pick data that supports their belief. That's human, but it's dangerous because you stop seeing reality clearly. So here's the reframe that changes everything. A pivot is not failure, it's an update. You started with a hypothesis about the customer, the problem, the solution, the business model. The market gave you feedback. Now you adjust. That's how real companies are built. Now let's talk about why founders stay too long, because this is where most damage happens. First, sunk cost. We've already spent so much time. Second, identity. This is who we are. Third, external pressure. Investors, team, market perception. And fourth, hope. Maybe one more feature will fix it. But here's the truth. Time does not fix a broken thesis. More effort on the wrong direction does not create the right outcome. And the cost of waiting? It's bigger than you think. You lose team morale. You lose hiring credibility. You confuse your customers. And most importantly, you burn runway that could have funded your next better idea. You don't just lose time, you lose options. So how do you decide clearly? You run a postmortem. Not as a ritual, not to assign blame, but to upgrade your thinking. A real postmortem asks, what did we believe would happen? What actually happened? Which assumptions were wrong? What surprised us? And what should we stop, change, or repeat? And here's the most brutal question. If we started today with no code, no history, no ego, would we build this again? If the answer is no, you are not persevering. You are stuck. Now let's talk about pivots. Because not every pivot is a complete restart. There are different types. You can keep the product, change the customer. Keep the customer, change the problem. Keep the value, change the business model. Keep everything, change the go-to-market. The goal is not reinvention, it's correction. But here's what founders underestimate. A pivot is not just strategic, it's emotional. People joined your company for one vision. Now that vision changes. If you don't handle this well, you lose trust. So what does good leadership look like here? Clarity. Here's what we learned. Here's why the old path doesn't work. Here's the new direction. And here's how we'll measure success. No spin, no vague language. Because teams can handle bad news, they cannot handle confusion. And one more rule, kill the old properly. Don't keep half-dead projects alive. They create drag, mental drag, operational drag, emotional drag. A clean break creates focus. The first 30 days after a pivot are critical. You need early signals, small wins, proof that the new direction has life. Because momentum rebuilds belief. Let's ground this with a real example. Slack. Before it became Slack, it was a gaming company. The game didn't work, but something else did. Their internal communication tool. They noticed it. They paid attention to real usage. And they pivoted. That's the key. The answer was already in their behavior. They just chose to listen. And finally, let's talk about the worst state a startup can be in, zombie mode. You're not growing, not failing, just existing. Busy, but not progressing. It feels safe, but it slowly kills the company. Because there's no conviction, no urgency, no direction. So before your next big decision, ask yourself, are we facing friction or indifference? Is the problem real enough? What evidence supports continuing? What evidence supports changing? And are we staying because of insight or because we are afraid to let go? Because in the end, great founders are not just persistent, they are perceptive. They know when to push harder and when to change direction. A great pivot is not panic, it's clarity. And great perseverance is not blind effort, it's evidence-backed belief. That's the difference between building something that works and spending years on something that never will.